All right, so I'm recording. We'll go over, come up with and go and create some new example today, but we'll start with, are there any questions? Questions, any questions? Everybody knows how to do everything. That's excellent. All right, so we want to do some example. We want to learn. We have to figure out how to do this homework that I posted. So I'm not going to do the homework, but we have to talk around the homework so that you can do the homework. And the homework was some more vocabulary, or not vocabulary, but tags. Tell me what certain tags are for in HTML. And then the other, that was his first homework, was just a whole big list of tags. Tell me what the tags do. And then the second one was a program. So just look up these tags, tell me what they do. And the second part of the homework, too many things open, was a program about doing a restaurant calculator. So trying to figure out, let them enter their bill, use a drop-down list to pick out what % tip they're going to leave, and then perform that calculation. Okay. So I'm not going to do that because that's for you to do, that's homework. But we want to do some things that are surrounding it that are related. Okay, so we need to play with some numbers. So we need to do something with some numbers today. You played yesterday in lab with the drop-down select. So are you happy with the drop-down select? Are you not happy with the drop-down select? Should you have asked a question when I said, are there any questions? He says no, he's happy with the drop-down select. I got a thumbs up on the drop-down select. Okay. So then if you have a question, please ask, but otherwise I will start playing with some numbers. And so let's just go make an input for that the user can enter some numbers, and then do various things with those numbers, and see what happens, so that we know how to deal with numbers. Okay. So here we go. So I want to, I'm in Visual Studio Code. It is open to my CSC 230 folder. I need it open to a folder so I can use my live server. If you don't have it open to a folder, go to File, Open Folder. But mine is open to a folder. I'm going to hit this little new file icon here, and I'm going to call it numbers.html. I want my computer in general, and Visual Studio Code in particular, to understand that this is going to be a web page. So I give it the extension HTML. Sometimes HTML is good enough. If you don't have an extension, it's going to say, I don't know what that is. And it will treat it probably maybe like just a simple text file. But the first thing we like to do is hit our exclamation point and get our emit abbreviation, get our starter web page going. And that's not going to happen if it doesn't know that it's a web page. So I'm going to type my shift exclamation point and grab my emit abbreviation and get my start of a page. Okay. again, you can code with me, or you can, I'm recording, so you can just watch and watch the recording back. And I'll just say number stuff. Okay.
How do you make the font bigger?
How do I make the font bigger?
Yeah, instead of it being smaller.
All right. I don't know that one. It's under settings, so down here on gear and settings. And then up here I can search for like font. And down here is font size. I did that all too fast, so let me start again.
Font size, all right. Thank you.
Okay, so I went to the gear. I'm going to just do it again. I went to the gear. I went to settings, and I could have hit control and a comma, but I didn't know that. So like settings. The settings has a search, fortunately. I wanted to do something to the font. And a bunch of stuff popped up. But one thing here was the editor's font size. I've already got it at 24. So that's why my font is so large, so that more people can see it. But for people way in the back, I'm also got the zoom going. Okay, so you don't need to make yours big, but mine's big because I'm projecting.
Everything's so, yeah.
All right, so we want to make a header.
Yeah.
And I'll call it number stuff again. Number stuff. Okay. So I've got my title, I've got my header. I've already told you that when I give a test, I'm going to have you put your name in a title, put your name in a header, put your name in an HTML comment. An HTML comment would look like that. And I'll say number stuff. And then when we, and then I would probably also give you some points for changing the color of the page and the color of the writing. And that's in a style. And the main page is the body. And the body has a background color. And what am I going to choose? Blanched almond, why not? And then that's the background color. And then for the writing is just the color. And I will choose dark blue. And it likes semicolons. The semicolons, when we get to JavaScript, are fairly optional. The semicolons in CSS, in style, are sort of more needed. It's a little bit fussier than JavaScript. And then let me save this up here, this blue one up there on the, what is that? The upper left, is that the left? Is telling me that I have it saved. On the lower left, it's telling me I haven't installed some update, but I'm on a lab computer at LaSalle and they don't let me. So that one down at the bottom, I'm going to have to put up with for probably the rest of the semester and probably into the spring because I don't have control over that. But my file, the top one I had control over, I've saved. I'm going to right click. I'm going to open with the live server. Okay, I don't want to restore anything. That was from probably yesterday. There is my lovely blanched almond and dark blue. Okay. So that was fun. So on a test, I probably would have given, points for the color, points for the HTML comment, points for the title, points for the header.
When do you think we're going to have a test?
When we have enough things for me to test on, week 4, 5, somewhere in there. I need probably an if. We need to probably we want to get something off the page. We already know how to do that. We want to do something to the page. We know how to do that. I want sort of more elements we're starting to get there with our drop-down selects and our buttons and our inputs. And then I'd like to have different scenarios, different situations, do something slightly different to the page. And that requires an if. Probably once I have page interaction, which we already have, plus a little more page interaction, plus ifs, I'll say that's probably enough material. And I'll always announce a test like a week before. And I will ask you guys when you have other tests, so that I'm trying to avoid, say, when you have like a database test. My test will be at the computer writing code. So I will give you a scenario and you will write a page that comes as close as possible in the time allowed to solve that problem. I'm not going to ask you vocabulary words on homework. I will, but not on tests. But I will use the vocabulary. So if I say, make a variable for blah, and you don't know what I mean by variable, then that's your problem. I'm not going to but you're at a computer and you can look up the vocabulary word there at the computer, but you're just using your precious time. Okay. So what do we want to do? We want to say, let's just have them enter two numbers, and then we'll do some basic addition, multiplication, subtraction, division with those numbers and see what happens. Okay. So I'm going to enter two numbers and just do all the stuff with them until I'll have, maybe I'll make a label. I'll be a good boy, make a label. And in the label, I'll say, enter the first number. And then I'm going to make an input. I'm going to have them enter a number. So I'm going to say number. And then input type equals number. I'm going to give it an ID. So then I can get that number out of the box. Even though it's a number, I tend to call it TXT. I need to make up some name. I'm going to call it text num1. You can call it whatever. You just need to be consistent. And you got to get used to giving these things IDs and moving on. Not spend 10 minutes thinking, well, what's the best ID name? ID name is just, it has to be unique. IDs have to be unique. It shouldn't have any spaces in it. That's a problem. You need to be able to spell it consistently. It should have some idea, if somebody looked at it, that they might know what it's doing in your program. But it's not something to spend a lot of time on. I just spent a lot of time on it, but don't do what I'm doing right now. Make up an ID, move on. Okay. Now that the input has an ID, I can make the label have a 4. And if the label's 4 matches the input's ID, they will work as a team. And I'm going to have a break. I need a break. Okay. So I'm having them enter the first number, and I'm making a place for them to enter the first number. I said that it was a number by the type. Yes.
Can we just give some div ID instead of the 4 text number?
The labels 4 and the inputs ID we're never going to read. I think, as far as I know, everybody in this room, nobody has visual impairment. It won't do anything for us. This is for the blind or the nearly blind, somebody using a reader. Then the reader will understand that this goes with this, so that it will read them the label, and then it will be in the box for them to type that thing. So there are other ways visually for this to occur, but this pairing is meant for the disabled. or the visually impaired. I don't know the right words anymore, but for people who are having visual issues.
So,
Then the choice.
if-
The 4 here matches with the ID here. That makes them work as a pair. That so then a thing that's reading your page knows that this, then it should read this. And then the course, and then when the user who can't see is typing, they know that when they're typing in that box, that label will have been read. Doesn't match. You're right, it doesn't match. Okay. So they were not working as a team, now they work as a team. Thank you. Okay, so now I need to enter another number. So I'm going to copy and then remember to change the 1 to a 2. That's 2, enter the second number. And 2. Okay. And then what am I going to have? I'm going to have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division buttons. And I'm going to make a place to put the result of those operations after you click the button. What should my answer container be? There's multiple things I could do. You want the answer to be put in an input.
Can, like, cut them out. That's the code.
In your HTML, if I'm going to have an input,
Input on the page.
if I have an input on the page, I usually work with its value.
Yeah.
If I want to enter HTML, the things that have inner HTML are divs and spans, things like that have inner HTML, something with an open and a close as an inner. If I want to use an input, then I work with the value. Let's look at the page for a second. Make sure I've saved it. Here's what it is. Here's what it looks like right now. And that's what a number input looks like. It's this rectangle with this white rectangle. Okay. Now here's my question. I want to have some button that says add these two numbers, and then I want a place to put my answer. I can put my answer in an input. If I put, and then it will look like this, because that's what inputs look like, unless I work harder. So I can put my answer, which is really an output, but I can put it in an input, and then it will look similar. So I might like that look. And then I should either make it read-only or disabled so that the user can type in the answer and make me look dumb. Or I can choose a different type of element, like a span or like a div. Let's work with the input, but change it so that it's more of an output. We could work with the span. We've seen that. We've played with spans before. Let's work with the input, even though it's going to be an output. Okay. And then just learn how to handle that. So I want to have a button. So there's another kind of button. So there's an input of the type button, and there's another way to do button. Do you want the usual way that you know, or do you want to see the other way? The other way.
Actually, wait, no, the usual way.
No,
What?
no, don't listen to
He
me.
said the usual way.
No, the other way.
I heard more the other way, and you're outvoted, but.
Come on, guys.
So the newer style of a button has an open and close. And I will say add them. And I'll give it an ID. Button add. And I will give it an on click. And I'll just say add, open close parenthesis. Okay. And then he wanted to, for the answer, he wanted an input. The answer is going to be a number, so I might as well make it a type number. I need to control it in code, so it better have an ID. TXT add, I'll call it, not ass, add. And I want to make it, do you want to try read only or do you want to try disable?
What's the
Yeah.
what's the difference?
Read only, disabled is going to make it gray, sort of a grayed out thing so that you can't touch it. And read only is going to not allow you to type it. Just pick one for now.
Right. Right.
Read only or disabled?
Oh, disabled.
A read only.
Should not even ask.
Mr. Blum ignored him. Ignored him.
I don't know what he said, so I gotta.
He saying the opposite of what I'm saying.
What did you say? Disable. Well, don't disable. I don't know. All right. And let's do multiplication. Then maybe we'll come back. So it'll be button mult. That's long enough. This will be mult.
Oh, you made another one?
I made another one.
Okay.
I copied and I'm changing it to multiply. So I have an add, I have a multiply. Multiply. And mult. Okay. And what do I still owe you? Functions. I owe you the add function and the mult function. So I need a script tag. Now that I have the script tag, I can add in a JavaScript comment and get a point for my JavaScript comment, number, program, put my name. Usually I ask for your name, something simple. And then what did we have? We wanted a function for add, and we wanted a function for mult. Now, what am I going to do to add the numbers? I have to get number 1 out of the box. I have to get number 2 out of the box. I have to try to add them. I have to try to put that result into the box. 4 things. Get the first number, get the second number, add them together, display the answer. All right, so I need variables. I'm going to use let num1 equal, go to the page, document, get element by ID. What was its ID? Text num1, I think. Text num1 and text num2. and text and inputs have values. Need the Explorer, but I do need to save.
But it's let's num1. That's the name of the number that we're gonna get.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna get a number out of the box, and we are going to call it.
That's the ID for that.
That's called a variable name, but it serves a purpose like that. Yes, but it's a place where we will remember the number.
Are we gonna do the same thing for the second function?
We're going to do the same thing for the second number. And then when I have everything done for addition, I'm going to copy it down into multiplication, and I'm going to change my plus to a star. So I'm going to copy down to the other function, but not just yet. I'm going to wait till I have more to copy. I'm going to copy this one line and change the ones to twos. It's yelling at me now because like IDs, variable names can't be the same. So now I have num1 and num2. I want to add num1 and num2. I want a variable name for that. What do you want to call it? Sum. We could call it sum. We could call it answer. We could call it result. We could call it thing. Call it poop. They would all work. The computer wouldn't care. Sum makes sense because we are adding, and the answer makes sense because it's the answer to whatever we're doing. So something that makes some sense. Poop will work, but doesn't make sense. But anything that makes sense. So let's go with sum because that was said first. Now, when I copy and I go down to the multiplication, I'm going to have to change some because it won't make sense down there. But I have num1 plus num2. And then I want to display the result. We have to be careful before when we are displaying results, we are displaying them often in spans or in divs, and we worked with inner HTML. But we switched, this is a switching day. We switched the buttons, we switched our display, and we are going to work with the, what did we call it? Text add, and it is an input, so inputs have values. So that's one thing that's easy to mess up in early JavaScript, even later JavaScript. Who's got a value and who's got an inner HTML? Very easy to mess up. We are displaying something in an input, and inputs have values. And the ID is text add. So we wanted, here we are getting something from the page. So document, get element by ID was on the right. Now we want to do something to the page. Document.get element by ID is on the left. Not an equal statement like in math where the right and the left are the same. They do different things. Document.get element by ID. It was text add, I believe. Text add has a value, and that was equal to this sum. So I told you there were 4 things. Get a number off the page, get number 1 off the page, get number 2 off the page, add number 1 and number 2, and display them. It's not going to work, but we'll fix it. Now I want to copy everything and put it down in the multiplication. And the name sum won't make sense there. So what am I going to change it to? Prod. I'll probably just say prod because I don't want to. If my variable names are too long, I'm going to misspell them. But so I'm going to copy this. Copy. You're ahead of me. I want everybody to see the problem and then we'll fix it. So as he's telling me something's not going to work, and then we're going to have to fix it. But that's always our job as coders. We're always going to be making mistakes and then trying to find them and fix them.
Did you, oh, okay.
I copied the contents of add into mult. And since he had me name in line 35, he had me name the variable sum. I didn't think I should use that name in the multiplication function, so I changed it to prod. And I also had, and oh, I did not change this. I should change that also to text mult, I think it was, right? I did change it.
Did you put it like above?
No. Shift A.
Again?
Oh, no, I just looking for shift A. Sorry.
No, I know that. I just look.
I just typed a star. I didn't do anything fancy.
I can't see. My bad.
All right.
When I added it, it put the numbers side by side, not added.
Yes, okay, you're ahead of me. I didn't run mine yet. You've run yours and you found the problem that he was talking about. So here's some number, 4 and 5, keep it simple. Add them, I get 45. Multiply them, I get 20. So the multiplication is okay. 4 times 5 is 20. But 4 plus 5 is not 45. So it's, our fancy word is concatenate. It concatenated them rather than add them. It treated them like a string instead of treating them like numbers. More fancy words. The plus sign is overloaded. It means it can mean two things. It can mean concatenate, put one thing after the other, or it can mean a mathematical addition. And then we have to specify, we have to trick the computer into doing the one that we want. So we have to say, the stuff we have is numbers, and you should do the numbery thing, which is addition. We said it was numbers here, and that wasn't good enough. That's not good enough. What does that do? That does not say to JavaScript, when this comes in, treat it like a number. That doesn't, saying that the type is a number doesn't affect JavaScript. It does affect the browser. I'm typing letters like mad, there's an E. I was typing all different letters, all I got was an E. The E can be used, the computer's version of scientific notation uses an E. So an E can be part of a number. So when I was typing like mad at the keyboard, you heard me doing all sorts of typing. The only thing that went in was an E, because that's the one letter that can be part of a number.
For some reason, like the code is summing up.
And if I need to look at yours, then we need to do it after the class. If you can ask a generic question like, how might something have happened? Like, why did I get one number after the other? Then we can talk about it. So,
Can I see the bottom again?
you want to see the code?
Why is my code coming out so different?
So the number saying that the input was of the number type controls what the user can type, but it does not control how it's interpreted once it's in JavaScript. So we have to do something else to control what we do when it's in JavaScript.
I don't know if this is a random guess, but should we change the dot value to dot number?
No, but
No.
let's try it, and we can always treat it like it's an experiment. And now you killed my program. Thanks a lot. To the console. And it's not giving me a red, it's not giving me an error, but it's saying something, and it's giving me a warning rather than an error. If so, it's telling me it doesn't like the add. I was expecting it to be red. It was only yellow, but it wasn't working. So I'm gonna go back.
Um,
I'm
Why?
expecting you to know the answer. I already told you.
why am I not getting any results?
I don't know. I have to look at, if I have to look at it specifically, then you have to wait till after class.
Okay.
Okay, so at this stage, I have
Hold on.
back to 4 and 5 is 45. Okay. So now I have to show you how to tell the computer to interpret these things as number.
Did you not create the thing?
No, not that.
And that is this thing known as parse. And now I have another question for you. Do you want your user to be able to enter like 10.5, or are you only expecting like whole numbers, like just a 10? It will be, I'll probably use a float. So if you only want whole numbers, you will say parse int or integer, and that's only whole numbers. And if you want to allow the user to give you fractional parts, then I will say parse float. So what do you want? Do you want floats? Okay. So we said we wanted to allow so there are two places where I can put my parse float. So now we decided parse float or parse int. So and now I have to decide where I want it. I can put it in line 34 and 35. As soon as I'm bringing them in, sort of say, oh, by the way, they're numbers. Or I can put them into 36 on either side of the plus sign and say, when I'm performing the addition, it better be numbers. Either way, it is workable. Just so long as I do it before the addition. I can do it in 34 and 35 as they come in and say, hey, they're numbers. And then when we get to the addition, it will do it correctly. Or I can do it right there in the addition. But I got to do it on both sides of the addition. Any preferences? You want to do it as they come in or at the addition? At the addition.
I think we should do it as they come in.
You're also contrary.
Oh, no.
I was trying to go with the first person. So somebody told me they wanted floats, and somebody told me they wanted to do it here at the addition.
What?
Wait, Will, you edited that? Let some equal, you edited that one?
I edited this to add this parse float.
What does that do?
that says that what I brought in, I want thought of as numbers, at least in this line 38. This is like interpret. This says interpret num1 as a number that can have a fractional part.
It's like convert, bro.
It's convert, it's parse, there's cast is another word for it.
Wait, what?
I you need to ask me a question rather than just what.
Oh, that works.
So I was asked previously, did I edit this line? The answer is yes. How did I edit the line? I added this parseFloat. I added it around num1 and num2. The parseFloat says that num1 and num2 should be thought of as numbers. Because of the float, it should be thought of as numbers with that I'm allowing fractional parts. And then once they're thought of as numbers, then the plus between them should be understood as addition. Okay. So could parseFloat here. Could parseFloat here. And now you'll begin to see why you just can't copy somebody's code and me not know. We've had to choose IDs. Are you all going to choose all exactly the same IDs? No. We had to choose variable names. We had to choose function names. We had different places we could put this parseFloat. If somebody hands in exactly the same code, you're supposed to do the same thing and hand in the same code, but there are so many subtle different ways to do it. If you do it all exactly the same way, usually ends up to be obvious.
ParseFloat and the before the
Before you would put it here in big parentheses.
Oh.
Let's see if it fixed it. Was there another question that I missed? So here's 4 and 5, which is now 9, but we allowed for fractions. What else do I want to do? Then I have 8 minutes. Well, one thing I just showed you, one thing that you should say, fix that. All right, let me ask this. If I wanted to subtract a minus sign, add the button, add the thing. Here's the disabled. Can't access that thing. I'm going to switch one to read only. Let me make this one, let me make the first one read only. See if that looks any different.
Let's change it too.
I changed the first input for text add. Instead of making it disabled, I made it read only. And now I can, it's white instead of gray. I can highlight it, but I can't type in it. Even numbers I can't. I'm typing numbers, but I can't get them in. Okay. So read only and disabled prevent the user from typing stuff in the box. Disable it will be gray. And read only it will be white. With read only it can be highlighted, it can get the focus, but it can't produce an answer for me. I can't type in it because it's read only. Read only means you can't write to it. I can write to it in code. I can put stuff in there, I think. I didn't test that. Code can put stuff in there, but I can't type in there. I'm typing numbers, I should be, but I can't type numbers because it's read-only. What else do I want to do? What do I always want to do? Done this before.
Team that give us the bonus points in the test.
The bonus points on the test. I don't go for bonus points, I go for hundreds. The thing that I would probably add to the test, which I'm trying to get you to tell me to do, is to clear out the answer. So now I have 42 and 5, and it says if I add 42 and 5, I get 9, which isn't right. So I want to have a clear function on the two inputs. And so what, so that's going to go here. What event do I use? On blur means when I leave. So if I put something in the box and I leave the box, then it might clear. On input is if I do any change to the number in the box, then that's when on input occurs. And that's the one that I want. So as soon as I put, if I had the 4, as soon as I type the 2, even if I don't leave the box, blurs when I leave the box. Sometimes that's what I want. Sometimes I don't want to change anything until I leave the box. That's blur. But I want to do it as soon as they make a change. So I'm going to do it on input. And then I'm going to make up a function. Clear is might be a reserved word, so I usually say clear out. I want either number to do it. So if you change either number, I'm going to clear out. So I have on input equals clear out, open close parenthesis. Now I have to define clear out in my functions. Here's my function. Clear out, open close curly bracket. And what do I want to do? I want to take the answer in text add. And I want to make it quote, quote. I want to take the answer in multiply. And make it quote, quote, not. Now let's have a quick peek at it. Let me enter 4 and 5 and add and multiply, then make it 41 and it clear them out and add and multiply and change this. So that's working. Anything else we want to do? Anything else you want me to do in a minute? I'll call it a day. You have a homework that you can play around with. You have a lab that you can play around with if it's not done. You are giving me the total, you're doing a multiplication and an addition in your restaurant calculator, because you have some original amount, and then you're figuring out a tip, And then you're adding the original amount to the tip. So there's a multiplication and an addition in there. And we've seen that the addition can cause problems. So you may need to do the parseFloat or the parseInt stuff to prevent the problem. Otherwise, your calculator is either not going to work, or it's going to give a very big tip that somebody will like, but not the user of your program. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to hang out if people have questions like there's going to work.
We go function, it will work for you, function.
Yes.
So that change.
If I change I can use the up down, or if I type, either way, it should clear. Either number should clear both of these. So it was working for me. And let me stop recording.